qualifying for all three following this USF Juniors qualifying run for USF 2000 USF Pro, as one driver already looping it around on the opening lap coming through turn number 2. We'll talk a lot about the action here, what's going to happen as this session gets underway. First and foremost, we'll say hello to those of you tuning in as well on the USF Pro Championships YouTube channel, or potentially on the downloadable USF Pro Championships app. Of course, all the coverage available there. My name is Rob Howden, the voice of this USF Pro Championships program, and it is championship weekend. IndyCar still with a couple of races to go before they cap off their 2024 calendar. But we're wrapping things up here today and tomorrow with 3 series on the docket here in Portland, 3 championships up for grabs, and, of course, the scholarships that will take these drivers, these champions, up to the next level in 2025. Big money on the line for some lucky driver, talented driver, whoever ends up coming away with the championship. We'll, of course, be watching that throughout the entire weekend, watching all the points permutations to see how it all plays out. But once again, let's have a look at where we are trackside. Arrived here at the track earlier this morning, a little bit of a sprinkle. It got a little bit more, and then it's kind of tapered off a little bit as of now. 58 degrees here trackside, and expecting the rain to essentially stop. We are expecting to see a drying track throughout the day. There is a potential front coming in for more rain this afternoon, but what you're seeing now is USF Juniors onto the racetrack here for a 20-minute qualifying session. 30-minute window to get 20 minutes max of green flag running. Now, let's kind of set the stage for this right now. We'll talk a little bit about the championship here momentarily, but all 3 series had a test day yesterday. 3 sessions on the racetrack, so lots of time to learn this challenging 1.964-mile 12-turn road course. A bunch of drivers having trouble coming through into turn number 1 here. It is one of the most challenging opening corner complexes in all of American motorsports. The festival curves there through that chicane area. And indeed, these drivers, as I said, haven't had a chance to be out here yet in the wet. So this is the first time for USF Juniors to be here. Last year we had USF 2000, USF Pro 2000 here at Portland, as we have for the last number of years as our season finale. This year we brought in our USF Juniors, a new program we launched just 2 years ago. The essentially initial step coming out of karting for top drivers, those coming out of some of the top racing series, the racing school series, like the Skip Barber Formula Race Series, which is our official partner of the USF Pro Championships. So not only are these drivers coming here for the first time yesterday in a test day, the track, of course, up here in the Pacific Northwest, a little too far for the teams to throw in a test day. So everybody learning the track yesterday. They've never been on this track in the wet, so we'll just do it in qualifying. Make things tough for these drivers and get them dialed in. So indeed, we're just getting things rolling right now. We'll bring some times for you here momentarily. Throughout this weekend, I'll be joined by track announcers Bobby Corser and Phil Martelli as well. Bobby, let's come in here. I know in the intro, you called this your Christmas, and I understand that, right? When you get an opportunity to do a big race, there's a couple I've done, a karting event called the SCUSA Super Nationals in Las Vegas. That's kind of my karting Christmas every year. I know it's big for you. You're a local guy here, weatherman here in the Portland area. But to be trackside for an IndyCar event, pretty special.
It really is special. And as somebody that grew up coming to this event and that had the hiatus where in between as we see a car now go off as we get to the end of the front straight here. But yeah, you're right. To see that and have that hiatus and then for it to come back now 4 years ago has really been awesome. And to see the IndyCar series back here. And again, you know me, I love all forms of open wheel racing. So to see these guys here, USF Juniors, USF 2000, Pro 2000, Indy next, it's great because it just really shows that this area needs it, and the Pacific Northwest does love their racing.
And let's throw this out here right now. The feedback from these USF Juniors drivers who have never been here before, they love this racetrack because it's got the long straightaways, It's got a lot of high-speed stuff, but the last couple of corners through, turn number 10, 11, and 12, as you come through there, they tell you it's like feeling like they're back in a go-kart again because you throw the thing in over the, you're really working the curbs. It's a big high-speed corner and one of the most crucial corners because turn 1 being the primary overtaking opportunity. You have to get through that last complex cleanly. to roll down here into turn number 1. So let's set the stage once again for qualifying because, again, a triple header weekend. 3 races to cap off the USF Juniors Championship. I'll dive into the point standings here and those who are still in the championship fight, but this is a very crucial qualifying session. You need to get 2 really good laps in. Your fastest lap here in this qualifying session will set the grid for race number 1. Your second fastest lap will provisionally set the grid for race 2 and 3. But if you go faster in race 1, you can use that time for race 2. If you go faster than that second fastest qualifying lap in race 2, you can use that for race number 3. So with changing conditions, I think we may see some faster laps coming in race number 1, which of course will take place just a little later on here this morning. About 11 o'clock we get started with USF Juniors race number 1. So again, let's look at the championship standings because that is really something we're looking at here this weekend. Max Taylor from Hoboken, New Jersey for VRD Racing coming in as the point leader, 40 points ahead of Israeli driver Ariel Elkin. And 40 points is massive, no doubt, over a full day's race's worth of points. But there's 99 points up for grabs, so Taylor really he's in kind of the hot seat right now. He's in the driver's seat, but he has to make sure his opening race is clean to get those points that he needs. Right behind them is Sebastian Weldon, of course, the son of the late, great Dan Weldon. He's only 5 points behind Elkin, so call him 45 points behind the leader. Liam McNeely, the driver out of England, not that far back, another 5 points back. He's still in the fight, as is Jack Jeffers and Augusto Soto Sharipa. Both Jeffers and Soto Sharipa maybe thinking more about battling for third, but if they were to come in here and grab perfect weekends, they could make things a little bit more interesting for Max Taylor. And I've said this all year long, guys. I knew we were going to come around to the championship here at Portland, right? And I kept telling everybody, they're like, oh, he's getting away. I think he's got a lock on the championship. I said, you could never say that when you can come to Portland because turn 1 and 2 is so precarious. We've seen this a couple years ago. We had 3 drivers in a USF 2000 championship, and the guy who's third ended up coming out with the championship because you just never know what kind of chaos you're going to have in turn number 1.
You really don't, and we've seen it time and time and time again. Look at old races, and it doesn't matter if it's IndyCar. It's what we saw earlier this year with the Xfinity Series. It's what we've seen with ARCA when they've been here, and you've seen it with touring cars as well. Turn 1 is a problem. I mean, this is the easiest way to say it, and I will say this. You know, years ago, Portland International Raceway smartly laid down asphalt in the middle of the chicane. That used to be a dirt track.
Yeah.
And if you even, if you missed the runoff, which was literally just going straight, and got bumped in the trap, you were done for the day. Now, at least luckily, you can do that. So we have a car has lost control at the end of the front straight, but we can get to that in a minute. But you're right. Turn 1 is what it's all about. I mean, that's what it is. You come to PIR, you're going to see turn 1. And you're going to see issues. You talked about 10, 11, 12. You're right. The guys were talking about just you throw the car in there. When you have that complex, it really acts as a driver as one continuous corner.
Oh, 100%.
While you're on the steering wheel and it's a quick left, right, left, it still is it's a singular movement because it's so short of time. You just don't have time to necessarily react. Wheel goes back straight. It's just, quick turn. So one full corner, and then you get that sweeping turn onto 12 onto the front straight. But you're right. It all sets up for turn 1. The chaos is going to happen, and we'll see it multiple times this weekend.
And in turn 12, every component of that complex is key. You have to turn in. If you miss the turn in, then you've missed everything for the rest of the lap. So that initial turn in after the long back straightaway is key coming through that final complex that leads on to the front straightaway. We did see one driver go off there in turn number 4. This is the left-hander here after the initial 1-2-3 complex. That was, I believe, Ariel Elkin, second place in points for Inter MS, the team based out of Florida. Their return to the series here this year after running in the inaugural series of USF Juniors in the old Ligier chassis back in 2022. Ariel, a very impressive driver, multi-time winner on the season already, scored victories at Barber Motorsports Park and at Road America as well. And again, this is all about these drivers kind of just getting a feel for this racetrack, right? They've never been in it in the wet. They're trying to find the racing line. Where is the best line in the wet? It's not normally the race line. As motorsports veterans will know, a lot of the times it's far outside, away from the normal rubber laydown, so they're rolling the outside of the racetrack. But there are some corners you simply just can't do that on. This is one of the corners. You kind of have to hit the apexes through. You'll see some of the drivers try to go a little bit wider. But for the most part, you're literally running those apexes still because there's just no other room to get through. Let's have a look at the times as we're just getting things in here right now. We're halfway through a 20-minute green flag run again 20 minutes max. So if we go green to checker, it'll be a 20-minute session, not a 30-minute session. But there is a full window that if we do have to go red for a driver off, we are able to potentially get all 20 laps of green in. Max Taylor, your point leader out front right now, and impressively, this kid is very, very good in the wet. 1.2 seconds up right now. Taylor has always shown that. There's another driver having some trouble. You see, it's all about that turn-in coming into turn number 4. That's one of the D-Force cars that's gone off, and will slowly and relaxed get back on the racetrack. Not quite sure which driver that was, but that was a D-Force car overcooking it coming into turn 4. So Max Taylor leads the way. G3 Argyros, the West Coaster from California, in the 63 for Jay Howard Driver Development, currently in second. Liam McNeely, the British driver, in third. Now, I don't want to stereotype British drivers that they're usually good in the wet, but it rains quite a bit over there. So he, of course, will be strong as we expected. McNeely up into the third spot. Leonardo Scorpioni, just 14 years of age, his first year in the program. He'll be back in USF Juniors in 2025 as well. He's had some good runs in the second half of the season. On the podium at VIR, Leonardo Scorpioni for Zanello Racing, currently P4. Sebastian Weldon currently 5th. Christian Cameron in 6th. Rodrigo Gonzalez 7th. Ariel Elkin 8th. Joshua Leonel and Brady Golan in 9th and 10th. Jack Jeffers also in the championship fight, currently in the 11th spot, but watch for the track to get better and better throughout this session. We'll see some fast times, I think, coming later in the run, especially as the drivers get a feel for this. And guys, you know, there are racetracks that I think it's tougher in the wet, but this is one of the ones where, especially because they've never been here, they've never tested here, really just their second day of on-track action, this is a very tough track to figure out in the wet.
Well, not just that, like you said, they got to practice yesterday, sunny out, pretty decent day, and it was their first time on the track. Then they come on and they got to deal with the weather today. Talking about the weather, now we're going to have maybe better weather when race time comes, maybe a front coming in later. You talked about the drivers. I just got to ask you a question. 14 years old. What is the starting age to run in this series?
So this year, a driver could have come into USF Juniors at 13, as long as they turned 14 during the season.
Wow.
Yes, but next year we've changed that, actually. So for 2025, you'll have to be 14, a hard 14 to run in USF Juniors, 15 for USF 2000, 16 for USF Pro 2000. That you're going to see drivers 17, 18 moving up to the Indy Next Series. There are some younger drivers in that program. And it's just, that's kind of the way things are going right now. You're seeing Formula One where, 19, 20, 21-year-olds are getting into Formula One. We don't see that a lot in IndyCar, but there are some kids that are coming through the ranks. And again, really when it comes down to what is the USF Pro Championships, right? We are the minor leagues. We're the development program for IndyCar in the Indy Next Series. And if you just, all you have to do is look at the Indy Next field here this weekend, and I think it's 15 or 16 of the drivers from the field all came through our program, including the point leader, Louis Foster, for Andretti Autosport, who won a championship in USF Pro 2000 just 2 years ago with Exclusive Autosport. Miles Rowe, of course, as well. And then what I always throw out there is you look at the last 6 champions from USF Pro 2000, the top level of our program. 4 in a row going to IndyCar. Renus VK, Kyle Kirkwood, Stingray Robb, Christian Rasmussen are all in IndyCar right now. We'll all be on the racetrack this weekend. We do have a red flag for an issue. We'll come and grab that in a second. But then the last 2 drivers as well. Louis Foster's leading the way, the points in Indy Next, trying to win that championship to move up to IndyCar. And then Miles Rowe, who won the championship here last year in Portland. We're very likely going to have 6 drivers in IndyCar in the next couple of years.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's great. And the ladder development series is where it's at. American Open Wheel needs that. And
it is. Listen, and the great thing is we are unparalleled. We're the only ladder system development program that provides the scholarships that we do. We're going to give out on Sunday night for our banquet over $1.68 million in prizes and scholarships, right? Like you think about the drivers, and I'll just throw the numbers out here right now. If you win USF Juniors, the championship, $263,700 to move up to USF 2000. That's your scholarship. If you win the USF 2000 scholarship, $458,400 to move to USF 2000 Pro. And if you're the Pro champion, $681,500 to take to an Indy Next program in 2025. No, that doesn't happen anywhere else in the world.
No, and that's absolutely huge. We know it's expensive to go motor racing, but at the same time, it's great because not only are your sponsors invested, but other thing is all invested in it. It's fantastic. So it's really cool to see this whole ladder development series continue to grow and continue to get backing, because it is really important.
So red flag on the racetrack right now. We were able to get, I want to say about 13 minutes, just over 13 minutes of a 20 in, being told the driver the number 20 off on the racetrack. And we do have a replay of the incident. We've seen a couple of them here already, have we not? This is turn number 4. That right-handers, they come through the corner here. I called it a left-hander earlier. It's obviously a right-hander coming through, and there you see a driver trying to push. You can see the car start to wiggle a little bit there, and he'll go all the way off the racetrack. And indeed, I talked about drivers getting back on smoothly. You wonder whether or not he was maybe got stuck out there, because as we know, the grass pretty wet. It looks like he's going to be able to come back on track. I don't know if that was actually the red or not, but we are red for a driver who's gone off the racetrack. Let's have a look at the top 10 right now. They're going to come back on track with likely just over 6 minutes remaining. Max Taylor is on top by a full second. Joshua Lionel for D-Force Racing, the Skip Barber Formula Race Series veteran driver, has worked his way into second. He capping off his rookie season here in USF Juniors. And there is the incident there as the driver's off. The AMR IndyCar safety team on the scene. And we'll see how quickly they're able to get that driver back. Looks like he may have gotten into the tires there on the outside of that corner. So indeed a driver off over in turn number 4 and 5. We are red. Max Taylor for VRD Racing leading the way. And remember, I talked about the fact that Taylor currently leading by 40 points over Ariel Elkin. When it comes down to the points per race, 30 points for a race win, 1 extra point for the fastest lap of the race, 1 extra point for leading the most laps, and of course 1 more bonus point, 33 on offer for all of the races. That extra final bonus point for qualifying on the pole position. So for a guy like Max Taylor who's looking to lock this thing down, if he were 67 points ahead going into the final 2 races, he will have already clinched the championship, because, again, only 66 points available for race 2 and 3. So if he's 67 points up after race number 1, he'll be able to clinch it today. But the juniors run their second race at the final event of the day here today. So we may have our champion already locked and loaded in USF Juniors today, as well USF Pro 2000. Lockie Hughes from Turn 3 Motorsports, the Australian driver, if he has a perfect day today here as well in USF Pro 2000, he will clinch the championship here on a Friday as well. So Taylor leading the way, Joshua Lionel in second spot, G3 Argyros in third, Liam McNeely fourth. Both Sebastian Weldon and Ariel Elkin turning their fastest laps right before the red flag. They are 5th and 6th respectively. But again, everybody over a second off of Max Taylor, who has shown extremely well in wet weather driving, 1:29.207, a full second quicker than a Lionel. Outside of Weldon and Elkin in 5th and 6th, Leonardo Scorpioni in 7th spot, Christian Cameron in 8th, and then Rodrigo Gonzalez and Patricio Gonzalez 9th and 10th, but potentially Rodrigo Gonzalez may have been the driver who went off over there in turn number 4. So when you do bring out a red flag, you do lose your fastest lap. Outside the top 10, Brady Goal in 11th, Jack Jeffers in 12th, Evan Cooley 13th, Timothy Carell in 14th, Augusto Soto Sharipa 15th, Michael Succo, Diego Guillo, Joao Vergara, Hudson Potter, Griffin Yellen, and J.T. Hoskins rounding out the 21 drivers we have here this weekend in the championship finale for this year's program. Let's have a look. We do have a lot going for you. We're going to really roll through essentially 6 sessions here from now through to 125. Right after qualifying here for USF Juniors, a couple of official practice sessions for USF 2000 and USF Pro 2000. That sets things up for the first race of the weekend for USF Juniors. We are set to go green flag at 11:15 this morning for the first of 3 races for juniors. We'll wrap things up with the podium there, and then right out of the podium, we'll be coming back for a couple of qualifying sessions to set the grid for the afternoon races. USF 2000 will be on track at 12:10, USF Pro 2000 at 12:55 as the drivers refiring and coming back out onto the racetrack. Some action for Indy Next and IndyCar in the afternoon, and then we go back at it at 4 o'clock again. 3 straight races to cap off the day here at Portland. USF 2000 at 4 o'clock, USF Pro 2000 at 5:15, and 6 o'clock this evening, a late run for the drivers in USF Juniors. First race of the day, last race of the day, and as I said, both Juniors and Pro 2000 potentially locking down the championship here today. If not, we'll see how it plays out tomorrow, and we have a number of races, 4 more races on the docket for Saturday. Phil, it's a busy weekend, and we're really rocking things here on a Friday for sure.
Boy, it is. And what's interesting, what you just said, if you bring out a red flag, they dock you for your fastest lap. Purpose of that is?
Well, it's essentially to slap you on the wrist. The bottom line is if you're pushing too hard and making a mistake and going red, what do we do? The penalty will hopefully make a driver realize, hey, listen, I can't make that mistake. I got to stay within my limits, right? And again, that's what this is all about. This is a driver development program. So the penalties we have is to teach the drivers the way they're supposed to react on track. And it's the reason why we started USF Juniors 2 years ago, was because we were looking for our own kind of development program. Before that, our 3-tier ladder system was USF 2000, USF Pro 2000, and for many years, Anderson Promotions and our program managed the Indy Lights program, which was Indy Lights at the time. It's, of course, now Indy Next. When Penske Entertainment and IndyCar took back the control of Indy Next, here we had 2 series, and we were kind of looking at the drivers that we were getting in from other series, and they were coming in with some of the bad habits. They didn't have the culture and the training that we wanted. We wanted to make sure they had they knew how we did things. So we started USF Juniors, and by doing that, it really has helped out the USF 2000 program, and will next year. I'm expecting 24 to 26 cars in USF 2000 next year. All of those drivers will have been already trained in USF Juniors on how we do things. What are our race procedures? Working with our race steward group, our race direction group. So the training is more in with our ideology, and that's going to allow us to build better drivers for IndyCar down the line.
And it's going to allow more teams to join as well.
Indeed, yeah. Well, a lot of the teams in USF 2000, then as soon as we started juniors, just added that program. Right. We've had a couple of new teams come in, a couple of them from karting, actually. Karting teams that said, listen, I got some great drivers. We'll start our own team and move forward. Zanella Racing being one of them. Naka Zanella, who is the owner of that, along with his wife Jessica, he's been in karting for 20-plus years. I called races when he was a young cadet karter, but he's now become one of the top engine builders in the sport, karting engine builders. He's got a fantastic karting team based out of Florida. So kind of a logical, addition and evolution to Naka's program to bring in that USF Juniors, because he's got so many good young drivers. Leonardo Scorpione being one. Ran for the karting team, seamless transition to run with the team into USF Juniors.
Sticking with the youngest, being so young to get into this series, that you can get in at 14 years old. That's the way open wheel is. Our limited sprint car champion last year in the Northwest here was 15 years old.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, and again, it sounds like they're young, but for many of these drivers, they've already been racing, week in and week out for 8 years. They're starting when they're 6 or 7 years of age in cadet karting, in of course the road racing world, and then they run nationally for 6 years. You know what I mean? They're running 40 weekends a year, and I always try to reiterate to people when they say, "Well, it's such a big jump from karting to cars." Dynamically, yes, a car is a much different vehicle, but when you think of data acquisition and debriefing and coaching and the level of competition, the amount of stuff they do in karting, people don't realize how serious it is. The debriefs, all the data overlaying the video and being able to go over it, it's unbelievably high. So the transition is quite easy.
In the last 10 years, maybe 15 years, where have you seen technology take karting? Because it's no longer, you pull the trailer up to the park, you unload, you tune up the engine, slap some tires on, and you go racing.
Well, it's all the ancillary stuff around it, right? It's the coaching, it's the level of the team. Like I said, essentially a top karting team is exactly the same as a USF Pro Championship team, right? They have a full engineer, they've got the data guy, they've got coaches. So I think more what's around. The karts are very similar than they have been for many years, right? The basic design of a kart really hasn't changed that much. The engines have more horsepower, tires. The tires haven't changed that much either. It's really more about the racing itself and everything around the coaching and the data acquisition and all that kind of side of the sport. So we are looking to the last couple of laps. You saw a number of drivers having issues coming through the 1-2-3 combination, taking that chicane off the racetrack. And again, we'll see how that plays out in the race, because we kind of change things around race-wise, that if you do blow the corner and take the cutoff, you're going to go to the tail of the field. Our drivers have to make it through turn 1, 2, and 3 on the racetrack. If you don't make the corner, you'll go to the tail of the field. Now, if the track is totally blocked and everybody has to go through the cutoff, like right straight through, that's fine, because everybody's going straight through. They're all going to go to the back of the pack, so everything will kind of stay clean. But the bottom line is that they have to make it through. Last couple of minutes here, though, a minute and a half, not even that remaining. Max Taylor still on top here right now, but not by much. Liam McNeely found some speed. He's only a tenth of a second back. Again, this will set the grid for race number 1 with an 11:15 green flag later this morning. Taylor, McNeely, Weldon, a Lionel, and a Scorpione, your top 5. Max Taylor in the number 33 is still leading the way at 129.188. And ironically, this being our first official timed session of the event as well, this will have a new track record. It'll get beat sooner or later, but 120, a wet weather track record. So we'll get that beat when we get back here, of course, in 2025. But Taylor with a 129.188 on top. Liam McNeely in second. Weldon, a Lionel, and a Scorpione. But as I said, expect these drivers to go quicker and quicker here on the final run. They finally had a chance to kind of get a feel for this racetrack. You can see not a dry line, but kind of a more focused line coming around this racetrack. They know where they need to be. This is the big lap right now. They're going to get just a couple more in. In fact, we're coming down the alternate timing line. The drivers are going to be able to just scoot through and get one more here. Does anybody have anything for Max Taylor? He puts in a 128.55. He responds to the lap time of Liam McNeely. But again, here the drivers are now coming down to the alternate timing line. This will be the final run. They'll come down the back straightaway, hit that timing line, and head to pit lane. Does anybody have anything for Taylor? Again, he went 7/10 quicker. These drivers here just came through, I think, enough to get one more lap in the books. A Scorpione is going to get another one. Brady Golan for D-Force Racing improves up into the 7th spot. Watch as they navigate there, kind of getting over top of the curbing. That's a tough thing in the wet. Curbing is painted, and paint does not like the moisture. No grip whatsoever. You really have to figure it out. You see the checkered flag there to driver's left coming down the back straightaway. Taylor, McNeely, Weldon. Brady Golan goes up to 4th. Back-to-back fast laps for Brady Golan. He goes up to P4. A Lionel in 5th. That's Jack Jeffers and Sebastian Weldon coming through, I think, 6 and 7, then through 8. Do they find more speed in the final circuit? Jeffers currently back in 16th. He will not be happy with that. The exclusive Autosport car is currently 14th, 15th, and 16th. Those are drivers we normally see in the top 10 as they come across the line. Jeffers is going to move up to the top 10. A good final lap there for Jeffers. He'll go to 10th position, but 2.5 back of Max Taylor in the wet. He is right now the driver who we have seen consistently running up front in any wet weather session. Max Taylor in the 33, and call it a bonus point for your leader as well. The point leader up front. A bonus point to start things off. And remember, he's going to be the first driver coming down into the festival chicane. A good opportunity for Taylor to potentially put himself in a fight to win a championship here today. Liam McNeely, the British driver for J. Howard Driver Development, ends up in 2nd. 3rd, Sebastian Weldon. All 3 of those drivers in the fight for the title. Brady Golan, impressive, the Texan for D-Force Racing, 18th. His last 2 laps move him up to P4. Joshua Lionel for D-Force Racing, the Skip Barber Racing School graduate, in 5th. Leonardo Scorpione for Zanella Racing in 6th. G3 Argiro 7th. Ariel Elkin leading the Inter-MS crew to 8th. Christian Cameron for VRD Racing, the 14-year-old Californian, in 9th. And Jack Jeffers, the Texan, rounding out the top 10. There's the remainder of the field. Gonzalez, Soto Sharipa, Gonzalez, Gio, and Cooley, top 15. Vergara, 16th. Carell, 17th. Suko, Potter, and Griffin Yellen, a Skip Barber driver as well, in 20th. And JT Hoskins, his first wet weather run here at the USF Juniors. That caps things off here, folks. For those of you tuning in on the broadcast, lots more to come. We will not be streaming the practice sessions for USF 2000 or USF Pro 2000 again. We'll be back for USF Juniors here later on today. Expect us to start the broadcast somewhere around 11 o'clock Pacific time. But again, we do have USF 2000 rolling out here momentarily. Great way to get things underway. One red flag kind of slowed it, but a lot of good time for these drivers. Max Taylor, once again, though, showing his wet weather prowess as the VRD driver and point leader. Grabbing another marker here. He gets the first blood as he grabs that position and is able to grab P1 for race number 1. Taylor and McNeely on row 1. Weldon and Golan row 2. Lionel Scorpione row 3. Argyros and Elkin row 4. Cameron and Jeffers on row number 5, and we go racing later on this morning. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. We do appreciate it. On behalf of Anderson Promotions and Continental Tire, my name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.